Okay, I think we have waited long enough this. Let's get started. I'm sharing my screen. And these are the new credentials that you can use to connect to the public cloud instance. So the password that I shared yesterday has expired. So this is a new credentials. Passing it on to everyone in the chat. So if you take a look at the reporting options available in cloud, so I mentioned this in our first session that yes, you've got 4 reporting options, 2 to report on transactional data, 2 options, and you've got 2 options to report on the balances. Okay, and we have covered BIP and OTBI, and we also covered FRS as well yesterday. And in today's session, we're going to cover SmartView. And yeah, it's pretty close to FRS reports, but it's just that to build FRS reports, we have downloaded a financial reporting studio and we have built report in there, right? Instead of that, SmartView is a plugin in an Excel sheet. I'll show you where you can download the software from. And after you download and install it, I'll show you how you can quickly build a report. But this report, the SmartView is not as extensively used as FRS is, but it is typically used to perform ad hoc analysis. So if a functional consultant or an end user wants to quickly pull the balances to see how they are looking like, in such case, they will use SmartView. And if they don't have any intention to publish that report to the FRC, in such cases, you will build it as a SmartView report. So where can you download the software from, this SmartView software? First of all, log into the application. I've logged into ZVCZ application and go to the same place, a Financial Reporting Center. Click on the Tasks ribbon. Open Workspace for Financials. And click on the tools option here, install. And this is where we have downloaded FRS software from, right? So if you want, you can also download the BA Publisher desktop software from here, which we have covered in the first session. And you can download SmartView from here as well. So if you click on the SmartView, that will take you to a link. That will take you to Oracle link. And you can click on downloads and you can sign in and download the SmartView plugin. Okay, so it's basically a plugin in an Excel sheet. Okay, and once you download and install that, you are ready to build a SmartView reports, which is an alternative to FRS when it comes to reporting on GL balances. Okay, now let's go ahead and how do you start with start an SmartView report build? First of all, let me explain the use case. So we are going to create a similar report that we have created yesterday. We are going to create an income statement report again. The reason behind going with the same use case is, if we build the same use case in 2 different ways, it gives you an idea as to what exactly are the differences between them, or it gives you differences between the way you approach a report. Okay, not exactly the same, but there are a few differences here. Yesterday we have built a report which will to display the balances over rolling 12-month period. But in the report that we're going to build today, with similar to FRS report, SmartView report can also have a logo and a heading. We're going to print a revenue and expenses balances. And we're going to display the balances by quarter, not by period, as we did yesterday. And we're going to have a summary column as well. And I'll also show you how to insert data in a graphical format. Pretty close to what we did yesterday. Okay. And to start off with this report build, what's the first thing you need to do? You need to open up a new Excel. And after you after you install the SmartView plugin, if you open up a spreadsheet, you will see this option. You will see this SmartView tab. If SmartView is installed successfully, Click on it. And in the Smart View tab, there is something that you need to set up first. So you go to Options, and in the options, there is a shared connections URL. And here you need to mention the URL of the ERP cloud instance that you want to connect and pull the data from. And there is a specific format to this. So you have to usually give it in this particular format. So it's a server and a port of ERP cloud instance, and you need to suffix this workspace and Smart View providers at the end. So if your instance link is this, you just mention it and copy paste this path and replace the instance. Or you can replace it that way and click on done. So you've captured the instance to which you want to connect in the options tab. That's the first thing you need to do. And then you can go ahead and create a connection after that. So you go to panel, you click on panel, and when you click on panel, you will be able to see the shared connections. Click on shared connections. And when you click on shared connections, it will try to connect to the instance that you have included in the shared connections URL. Okay, so enter the credentials. And it is anita.kennedy. The same password works for all the users. And it is logged into the instance. And what did we do after we opened up the FRS software? So when we opened FRS software also, it asked us to connect to the instance, right? The same thing here. We are connected to the instance now. And then what did we do? The moment we dragged in a grid in FRS report, it asked us to connect to a database connection, connect to the database, right? And that's where we selected US chart of accounts. We have to do something similar here. So you click on the drop down, you will see two servers in there, Essbase Cube and Hyperion. Pick up Essbase server and you will see a cluster expanded. You will see all the chart of accounts defined in the instance. So I'll pick up US chart of accounts, expanded. You see a database in there, select that, and then you click on connect. So that will connect you to US chart of accounts database. And you can also add it to the private connections if you want, so that you can quickly connect to it if you want, rather than going through these 2 or 3 steps if you want. That's okay. Click on connect. And you can do, it's connected now. And you can create an ad hoc analysis. Okay, so let's click on it. That will generate a new ad hoc analysis. And yeah, the ad hoc analysis is generated, and you could see that all the dimensions are showing up at the top, which we have seen yesterday as well. And the accounting period is showing up as a row, and ledger is showing up as a column. But you can configure these values, and to configure them, what you have to do is you can click on point of view. And when you click on point of view, what happens? Everything that is there as columns will come into this selection window. So if you click on POV, they will go back again. Click on POV, they will come back into the pop-up window. Okay. And what you need to do is you need to click on, there will be a query sheet. So if you go to, we've created an ad hoc analysis. And we need to go to a query designer now. Click on the more option here, click on the more option and click on query designer. And when you click on query designer, it opens up few options which will let you build your report. Okay, so you can minimize this. And what do we want to do? We want to build a report that looks like this. I should have probably captured a snapshot. I think we have it here. So I need to build a report like this, wherein I want to have a company as well as account as rows. Okay. And I want to have quarter as quarters, right? So as rows, what do I want to have? I want to have a company segment and the account segment. So drag out. Okay. So take the company segment and add it as a row. Okay. And then you take out accounting period and move it to the columns. Even though you're displaying the quarterly balances, it is also nothing but an accounting period. In the accounting period, you get an option to choose the periods as well as the quarters. Okay. And the ledger is not required. So you put it back into the POV section. And in the row section, apart from company, I want to have account segment. So I go ahead and drop it there. And it got added, but it got added as a first column. Okay. So I need company and account segment as a row, and I want accounting period as a column. So I was able to configure it. And you need to select the value for each and every point of view that you are seeing here. And that's one major difference. In FRS, we were able to, we had a choice to select the point of view values only for the ones that we are interested in, right? So we selected only the ledger, the balance amount, and the currency, right? We have, for the remaining segments, we have left them blank, like line of business, intercompany. But in the case of SmartView, if you don't select values for any of these point of views, if you click on apply query, so this is like executing the SmartView report. If you click on apply query, you will say that there is no data found. So it's your responsibility to select values for all the columns, rows, as well as the point of views. And how do you select the values? You click on a company, and that will open up a member selection window, and you can select whatever values you want in that. So you can select all company, move it. You can take off the company and click OK. And click on account, and you can select what accounts you want to have in your report. Take out the placeholder again, default placeholder, and you can go to V1 hierarchy. And you can select the accounts that you want to have. And you can add them in. Click OK. And you can, in here, you can, I think they selected accounts directly, not from a hierarchy, from a normal all value selection. That's okay. We can select it from the hierarchy as well. No problem with that. So we have selected the revenue account and the revenue balance and the expense account and 3 different expense accounts. So this is expense related parent account, revenue parent account, revenue child accounts, and expense child accounts. And for the accounting period, what do we want to do? We want to select, we want to display the quarterly balance. So you click on accounting period and you take this off and say, for example, you want to display the balances of 2019 and I want to display balances for all 4 quarters. If you want to select an individual period, you can select them, or if you want to display the balances for a year, you can select it. For a year, you can select it this way. If you want to display balances by quarter, you can select it this way. add them, click OK. You will notice that the quarters got added now. And you can select the optional values for all these other point of views. Just say, for example, for ledger, to select the values, what you need to do again, you click on the drop down and you click on the three dots. That will open up a selection window and you will be able to pick a value for that particular point of view. So you have to do this patiently. For all the point of views, you have to select the values. And what values you need to select for amount type. Again, I've given what value you need to select for each point of view. Okay, select the balance type as quarter to date for amount type. And the balance amount, again, you can select a period activity as we did yesterday. Or you can select open or ending balance as well. And for cost center, for 4 segments, select all values. Cost center, intercompany, LOB, and product, because we don't want to filter by them. Currency, you can select USD. Currency type is total. Intercompany, LOB, and product, select all values again for these 3 segments. And for this, select only the actual journals and select US primary ledger, and then we click on apply query to run the report. US primary ledger, select it. And if you look at it, if you think of it, we are doing the exact same steps that we did yesterday, but in an Excel sheet rather than in an FRS software. And now if you want to run this report, you click on apply query, and that will hit the SPS cube and it will fetch the balances for you. So you can see the balances coming up now. If I move this to the side, you can see that for these accounts, for these quarters, the balances have been pulled from SPS cube and they are populated here. So if you don't want to display the balances for the top level parent, you can take them off. You can delete it. So and only the child accounts will be displayed there. So if you look at this, this is the total revenue balance. And since there is only one account, you will see that these 2 figures match. But in the case of expense, you see expenses balances, expenses period activity by quarter, and you will see the split by different expense accounts again. And if you sum all of them, you will see this figure showing up, that amount. And the biggest benefit with SmartView report is from end users perspective, so most of us will be comfortable with Excel, right, rather than FRS software. So since it's an Excel sheet, you have the full functionality or full potential of an Excel sheet or Excel functionality available for you. And you can do pretty much anything you can do in an Excel sheet. So you can say, for example, if you want to insert a logo, insert a text, or insert a graph, anything you do in a normal Excel sheet, you have all those options available in FRS report as well. Okay. And when do you normally use, so how do you plug in a image? So insert few rows, select a row where you want to insert a picture. I'll insert a training institute logo in there. You can add it like that. And you can also give a report heading if you want. You can say income statement report, and you can make it slightly bigger and bold. And you can also display these values in the graphical format if you want. You can also add the summary columns here if you want. But since there is already a summary column at the top, so we have the parent expenses of the parent displayed there. So even if you add a summary column here, this column, these balances will show up. So there's no point in adding it. But if you want, you can add in a summary column. So you can probably say total expenses in case you're not displaying this row. And how you can display the summary columns here. So you can say auto sum, reduce the range. It's from C10 to C12, and you can extend the function to other rows as well. And you can save the report. Okay. And you can also display the information in a graphical format if you want. You can click on insert. You can select the rows first, select the rows with which you want the graph to be generated. So I want these expenses to be displayed as a in a graphical format. So you select the rows and you click on the graph format. So you select probably a 2D line, and that will insert a graph for you. You can resize it as you wish. And you can again configure this graph to display to rename these series what that expense means. And you can also change the titles as well. You can probably you can select the way you want to display the balances, and you can also configure it. Instead of calling them series 1, series 2, and series 3, we know as you hover on it, it will show you what balance it is displaying. So series 1 is a material expense. So if you want to change this to material expense, you can give it a name. So you can say material expense. Click OK. You see the name gets changed. And you click on the filter again. Series 3 is operating expense. Add it in. And the third one is a tax expense. And these quarters 1, 2, 3, 4 are nothing but the quarters. So if you want to rename them, you can do that as well. So click on it, and if you want to go to names, or I believe you have an option as well here, I believe. So if you click on it, so you see the edit, you see an option to edit the column range. Select the column, edit it, and you can say Q1. Click, and you select the second column. I believe you have to add it here. That's okay. You can rename the columns as well. This 1, 2, 3, 4 to Q1, 2, or 3. Okay, so these things you can do. So it's like it is like playing around with an Excel sheet. So yeah, if you just know Excel, you can incorporate or explore all the features that are available in a Smart View. Okay. So any questions, guys? Any questions in this one? In the Smart View report.
Yeah, Prasad, when we save and close this Excel and when we reopen, so does it comes with connection details automatically, or we have to log in again?
You will have to log in again. Log in the sense a pop-up will come which will ask you to confirm the password and connect. And then once you do that, after you do that, the balances will get refreshed and they will be pulled again. Okay, so that way it ensures that you will only look at the real-time balances, but not the old data that was extracted earlier.
So, and the other thing is, like, as we are extracting the values from the SBS server into this Excel, is there also a way that we can load the balance from SmartView to the SBS server and the database?
No, you cannot load it. This is basically a reporting tool. It's not an ETL tool. You can only read the balances from there and report it here. It's applicable for FRS as well as this Smart View. Yeah, the balances in Essbase Cube gets updated as and when you perform transactions in GL Cloud. So if you post a journal in GL Cloud, that balance gets automatically updated for that particular account in that particular period in the Essbase Cube. You usually don't load balances into Essbase Cube. As and when you perform transactions, as and when you load journals and balances into GL, those will flow into Essbase Cube. You don't directly tamper the data in Essbase Cube. Okay? Yeah.
Prasad, I have a query. This is very good.
Yes.
Prasad, if I select for an Indian ledger, but I am registered at the New York Stock Exchange. So I want to see in INR and USD at the same time for this report. How can I build that one?
You can probably duplicate it, and so you can see one at a time. If you want to see both the balances, you can probably add, probably make a copy of this and put it in another tab and just change the currency to INR in there. So as you can see here, if you want to see the balance in INR as well, try adding currency as a column as well. Okay, so that way you can see, you can flip the currency and see the balances in both the currencies if you want. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the last topic, guys, which is a disbursement payment file format customization. So let me give you the context for this one. Why do we need this component in first place? And then I'll talk about how to go about doing this. So as you know, so if it's in P2P cycle, so what does the company do? What does the clients do? They will buy a raw material or goods from a supplier. So they will raise a PO and they'll receive the goods. And after they receive the goods, you have to pay the supplier for what you have bought, right? So that's when what do? You create an invoice in AP module. So say for example you bought something for 100 USD worth 100 USD. So you'll create an AP invoice for 100 USD, and then depending on the payment term that you have, you might make an immediate payment or complying with the payment terms, you will go ahead and also pay the invoice. So what do? You go ahead and make the payment in AP module again. Say for example, the supplier is say Easy Solutions. Okay. And say his bank account is 12345. Your company bank account, let's say 67890. Okay, so Easy Solutions, it's a supplier, and his bank account is this. So when you make a payment, so you created a PO, Easy Solutions, a supplier has delivered the goods, you have raised an invoice, and then you made a payment in the ERP cloud. So when you make a payment in the ERP cloud, as a standard process, there will be a job called a format instructions or format payment. I don't remember the job name exactly. So the format instructions job gets triggered automatically. And what will this do? This will generate the payment file. Why do we need a payment file in first place? The reason why we need a payment file is when you make a payment, when you pay an invoice in AP, accounts payable module, as soon as the payment is through or you save the payment, the invoice will be marked as paid. Invoice will be marked as paid in ERP cloud, and the payment gets successfully created. But does that mean ERP system transferred 100 USD from your bank account to the supplier bank account? No, right? Because ERP system, it can't connect to it's not a core banking system. So you need a way to let the bank know. So client would have got into agreement with one of the leading banks. So the client would have got into agreement with, say, a Wells Fargo or a Bank of New Zealand or Bank of America. And the client or the customer needs to tell this bank to transfer 100 USD from your bank account to the supplier bank account. And how is that communicated? That is communicated through the payment file. So that's why, especially if it is an EFT payment, as soon as the payment is done, as an out-of-the-box process, a job gets triggered, format payment instructions. Okay. And what this job will do, this will generate a payment file. And what do you do after that? After the file is generated, you will also set up a transmission options. Okay, so you will do a transmission configuration. I'll show you how to do this flow now. And in that transmission configuration, what will this transmission configuration help you with? It will transfer the file to SFTP. You can deliver the file to SFTP or UCM. And what will happen after that? The bank system will pick it up, and transfer the amount. Okay, so this is the usual flow. Since when you make a payment, invoice is marked as paid, but not the funds are actually transferred, you need to let the bank know to make the transfer. And the way you do it is, you will transfer the payment file that is generated by the seeded job to SFTP or UCM with the help of transmission configuration. And the bank system will come around and they might keep polling on the SFTP server, or they might look for the files at a specific time. It depends on varies from bank to bank again. And they pick up the file, and in that and they process the file. And when they process the file, when they run the file through their system, through the core banking system, the amount gets transferred from this particular account to this account of 100 USD. So this payment file that is getting generated, it is called as a disbursement payment file, because you're basically disbursing funds, right? So it is called as a disbursement payment file formats. Disbursement payment file formats. Okay, and in here, when you get the instance, when you get a new ERP cloud instance, there will already be a seeded report called disbursement payment file format, and there will also be n number of templates available, seeded templates available, which can help you. These there will be 50 plus file formats already available, which you can use to generate the file. So these payment file formats are nothing but e-text templates. Okay, so these are nothing but e-text templates, and these templates, what they do, they generate the payment file in a format that you want. So what client will do is, in a finance implementation project, the client will go to the bank first and ask them for the payment file format. So the bank will give you a sample file format, and a sample file as well. They will give you the sample file, and they will also give you the specification explaining what each and every field is. The specification talks about each and every field in the payment file. Okay, and once you get that payment file, what you do is you will see if it is matching with any of the templates available. Okay, if it's matching with any of the templates available out of the box, if it's matching, you can make a copy of it and you can make that small change and upload a new template. Otherwise, you will have to create a new e-text template with the payment file format that you have received. Okay, and yeah, we are going to carry out all these steps now. So I will show you. Will not go through the file preparation as such, because file preparation is fine. You will just get a file format from the bank, and they'll tell you in what sequence the files, the columns need to be printed. I'll show you how I prepared a payment file format for one of the client. Okay, and what you need to do is, there will be a few more steps that you need to perform to use that template in the format payment instructions. Or to make this particular job, pick up the payment file format that you uploaded or the custom template you uploaded. You will have to go through a series of steps in the ERP cloud instance. So we are going to go through all those steps now. Just give me a couple of minutes. Let me download the template that I have built for one of the previous clients, and I will also walk you through the process of customizing the disbursement payment file formats. Just give me a couple of minutes, guys. Give me 1 more minute. I'll be back with you. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is when you have to customize a disbursement payment file format, or when you have to come up with a new file format, what is the first thing you need to do? You need to first log into the instance. So I've logged into the ECBP instance as Fusion.tech user. And what I do is I will have to go into reports and analytics. So if you go to tools, there is reports and analytics. Click on it. And you don't need to do anything in this intermediate screen. Just click on browse catalog. You can bookmark this URL as well in case you want to go to reports and analytics directly. And this is where we created the BAP as well as OTBI reports, right? So here in this folder, so if you go to shared folders, I've explained the hierarchy or what these folders are all about in the BAP report session. So if you go to shared folders, there will be a seeded financials folder in there, expanded. And there will be a payments folder, expand it again. And you will be able to see that there is already a seeded report called disbursement payment file formats available. So I need to customize this. So customize in the sense I want to add my new layout in there and customize this. So to customize this, you have to click on the more icon. And when you click on the more icon, you don't see an option called customize there. So the way what you need to do is whenever you want to customize a seeded report like this, you will not be able to do it directly from the analytics window. You will have to use a specific URL for that. So you need to use this URL. You need to go to the XMLP server of that instance. Okay, so whatever ERP Cloud instance you are using, replace that ERP Cloud URL here, put /XMLP server at the end. So if you access the XMLP server, then you will be able to see the customize button. So if I click on more now, I can't see the customize button, right? Let's try to access this XMLP server. It's the same again, the ECBP instance followed by XMLP server. And I go into the same path, go to catalog. And I go to shared folders. I go to shared folders. And if you go into customs folder, the financials folder, the payments, You see the disbursement payment file formats again. This is the same thing that we have seen here. Shared folders, financials, payments. We could see financial disbursement payment file formats, and we are seeing the same option here. But the benefit you get by accessing the XMLP server is you will see an option called customize. So you click on the more option, you will see customize option in there, and you click on it. When you click on it, what happens is this report will get copied over to the custom folder, and the folder structure will remain same. So this report is currently in financials payments folder, right? So the financials payments folder will be created under custom folder if it doesn't exist, if the folder structure doesn't exist, and this report will be copied over to that custom folder. And then you can make changes to the report, seeded report. So click on customize. Okay, looks like it got stuck. I'll wait for a few more seconds and then we'll exit the page otherwise. Yeah, you notice that it's getting copied now. And the report got copied and it's opening up the report definition. And what do you see in here? Yes, there is a standard data model and there are many layouts available here. So if you click on view a list, you will notice that to make the lives of clients easy, so for each and every country, you will find layouts available for EFT again and for different payment methods. So you see one for Netherlands, one for German, one for Belgium, one for French, right? So depending on your client country, you can pick up the payment format given here and see how closely it matches with the supplier payment file, okay, or the payment file that you have got from the bank. But if you think that none of the templates match with the client format, so usually it will match for at least 50 or 60%. And in such case, what you can do, say for example, if you are building one for say New Zealand or US, what do? You go in and check for EFT format. Okay, say for example. That's okay. Well, you can look at one of them, and that will give you an idea. Say, for example, if you look at this Italian EFT RTF, open it up. I just picked up one random template. EFT stands for Electronic Funds Transfer, and if you open it, it's basically all of these are e-text templates, and in these templates there is a specific format in which they will be prepared. So there will be these tables that you see. And in the tables, it will be mentioned what a field needs to be printed there. Okay, so what field and what is the comments for that. So if you scroll down, you see again different records are getting printed. So if it is too technical for you, you can probably take help from the technical consultant in coming up with this template, especially. And in the template, e-text templates, you can also write these if then else conditions like this. So you can mention, so if you look at the columns, it generates a CSV file, and that file, the text file, which will be separated by comma. And in the first column, it will be a blank. And then in the second column, they are printing a 10, which is a hard-coded value. In the third column, they are printing payment sequence, and you're seeing how long a third column can be. So you will get a file from the client, which will tell you what needs to be, how your template needs to look like. Okay. Say for example, I've got this payment file. Say I've got this specification from the client. A client has told me that I need to include not these many columns, but client has asked me to include few columns in there. So client said I need to include the debit account number, payee beneficiary account number, from which account to which account, what is the amount, what is the currency, and what is the payment date, beneficiary bank name, a transaction type code. This is basically used in core banking system to identify what type of transaction it is. And they wanted me to print a concatenated transaction, where a concatenated description basically, which is nothing but all the invoices which are paid in that particular payment. Okay, so in a single payment, you can include multiple invoices, right? So in case you have multiple invoices, you can concatenate those invoice numbers. So the way you concatenate them is you can write formulas like this as well. So this will be too technical, but just be aware that yes, there is a capability like this available. So you can concatenate invoice number with invoice description, and you can come up with a concatenated numbers set, meaning if you have three invoices paid out in a single payment, you will have invoice 1 asterisk invoice 1 description followed by slash, and you will have invoice 2, these two symbols again, and then the invoice 2 description like that. So this formula, it concatenates invoices together along with the description, and it gives me a single string that I can use in the report. So this CHR14, it acts like a separator. So after the bank account number is printed, there will be a comma that will be printed. So it indicates what value gets printed there. Okay, CHR44 means a comma. So bank account number, from which account to which account, how much amount, and all these columns. Yes, the client told me that they need a file to be generated in this specific format. So it has to be a text file with 10 columns separated by comma, and a date has to be in this format, and concatenated description, it has to be this length. So once you get all these details, you will include them here. So the first question that you get, who will tell me these tags, right? So you need to know what you need to plug in here, right? So this is where I make use of the seeded templates. So what I do is, there are two ways to figure out what tags you need to do. So you can make out, you can make a payment. You can make a payment, and this format payments instructions job will generate an XML output. So you can download that XML output, look at the tags, and from the tags and from those tags, you identify what are the tags for beneficiary account number and what is the tag for debit account number. And then you include those tags here, the XML tags. But another easier option is pick up a template like this, seeded templates, and look at the account numbers. Say, for example, I want to include the beneficiary account number, right? So you search for bank account number. Okay. And if I search for bank account number, what does it say? It says bank account number. This is what I need. And it's a debtor account, right? So that is my first column, right? So in the first column, they asked me to print the debit account number. So I copy this tag as is from here, and I paste it here. So that is my first column. So you do the same things, repeat the same exercise for other columns as well. So to identify the tags, you make use of the seeded templates given by Oracle. Say, for example, if you need supplier bank account number, so if you do a check, you will be able to see the payee bank account number as well. So if you look at here, payee bank, there will be a payee bank account number as well. So you look at this payee bank account. Yeah, they're printing the IBAN number. Yeah, you can get the details from the XML tags, or the XML tags information can be derived, or you can easily find them in the seeded templates. And then you come up with this template. You don't create these templates from scratch. You pick up an existing template and you modify it. So I picked up one of the seeded template from here, and I deleted. If you have multiple tables in the seeded template, you will have multiple rows generated for each and every payment. I deleted multiple levels, so I left only one table in the sheet, and then I removed the columns, and I have rearranged them the way I want it. Okay, so I have a template now which will generate the output in a format that Wells Fargo needs, or maybe ABC Bank needs. So what do I need to do? What's the next thing for us? We need to ensure that when a payment is made, this template is used to generate that payment file. And how do you do it? the way you do it is you already have the seeded templates here, right? And you have already customized this disbursement payment file formats. And when you clicked on customize, what would have happened? The report would have been copied to the custom location. So if you look at shared folders, if you go to custom, and if you go to financials folder, what do you see in there? You see a payments folder is created just now by us. So that means if the folder structure doesn't exist, the folder structure gets created. And under the folder structure, you can see the report placed in there. And I can edit the report and I can upload the new layout that I have created. Click on view a list and you can. And one key thing here is don't try to use this option called add new layout here, because when you do that, okay, so sometimes what might happen is, it's not happening for this one, but sometimes what might happen is you might see an error message which says that a sample XML is missing in the data model. So in case you get that error, you can probably go into this view a list and you see an option to add a template there as well. So you can add a template from thumbnails or from a list. So both option is fine. Click on the plus icon and you can upload the e-text template that you have created. Click on upload and you can select the file that you have created, the payment file. You can say TF15 payment format. And the template is e-text template. It's not an RTF template. Even though extension is RTF, the content within it is e-text template. English United States. And upload it. And click on view a list. If you scroll down, you should be able to see the new template that you uploaded. And now what we need to do, we need to do a series of steps in the financials application to ensure that this format payment instructions job picks up this template and generates a file. And how many steps are required for that? There are around 5 to 6 steps that you need to perform. So what you need to do is you need to define a format using the template that you just uploaded, and then you create a payment document using that format, and then you create a payment process profile. And in the payment process profile, you tag everything that you have created earlier, and then you go ahead and make a what do you say? You go ahead and make a payment. So this is a slightly old document. Let me just get the new disbursement payment file format PPT base. Just give me a minute. That was a slightly older one. So what you need to do is you need to define a format for that, and then you create a payment document, and you need to define a transmission configuration, because after the file is generated, we want the file to be transmitted to SFTP. Okay, so this will be typically done by technical consultant. And you have to define a payment system and an account, and you define a PPP which will be used to make the payments. And after that, we will go ahead and pay an invoice. And the expectation is after we make a payment, so after we do all these setups, which is where we are tying the template that we have uploaded just now to the payment process. If you go ahead and pay an invoice, a file will be generated, in the format that we want or Bank of America needs maybe. And the file gets deposited in SFTP server as well, so that the bank system can come back, so that the bank system can pick up the payment file from SFTP and transfer the funds to the supplier bank account. Okay, so let's go ahead and perform these steps. So go to FSM. Select financials and select manage formats here. Okay, and in this format, so we have to register the new template that we uploaded as a payment format here. So the first common mistake students do is they click on create as soon as they see that button. But if you create it, it creates a bank statement format. But that is not what we want, right? We want the disbursement payment file format to be created. So select disbursement payment file format and create it. And you give it a name, you say TF15 format. You can probably use the same thing as a code as well. And in the template here, you will see the templates that are available in this particular list. So whatever templates you see here, those will be available in the drop down here. So you should be able to see the template that you have uploaded. So they will be sorted in alphabetical order. So if you go to the templates that start with T, you should be able to find yours. So select the template that you uploaded. And you can save and close. So what are we doing here? We are registering the template as a payment format. And later on, we're going to tag this payment formats in the payment process. Okay, so what do we need to do after that? We need to go to a bank account and create a payment document with this format. So I've given a specific bank account number that you can use straight away. So you go to manage bank accounts. Search for the account name, edit it, and you can create a new payment document here and attach the format that we have defined just now. So the way these setups work is there will be a linkage between one and the other. So the first setup that you do, you will be using it in the second one, and what you do in the second will be used in the third. Okay, so you scroll down, create a new payment document. Call it as TF15 pay document. Create a new one and select the payment format that you have created. And you can call it as, you can define it as an embedded stock. That's fine. Give some start number and an end number, and that's it. So you're attaching the format to a payment document, which we will use later on while making the payment. So you save and close. And we need to set up the transmission configuration now. We need to set up the transmission configuration so that the file, after it is generated by this seeded job, the file gets transmitted automatically. So for that to happen, we need to define the transmission configuration. So you go back into the instance and set up the transmission configuration. Select the payments one, select the appropriate one. And in here, you need to select a protocol. So there are two destinations where you can typically deliver the payment file. You can either upload to the UCM attached to this instance, and in such case, you will use this UCM upload protocol, or you can upload the file to, or you might be asked to upload the file to SFTP server, in which case you will use this SFTP protocol, secure file transfer protocol, for static file names. If you have to deliver the file to SFTP, select SFTP option and click on create. And you can add in the SFTP server details here. So we'll call it as TF15 transmission configuration. We've got access to one of the SFTP servers. So let me connect to that SFTP server. So if you guys want access of this SFTP server, please reach out to the training institute and ask them to share the credentials of this SFTP server in case you want to practice the use case. Okay, it is one of the SFTP server that training institute pays for. Okay, and in here, let's create a new folder. At the root directory, let's create a new one, and let's call it as TF15. And let's try to place the payment file in here. So I need to configure the details here. I need to mention the SFTP server details. Server name is rbstg.exavolt.com. Port number is 22 because it's an SFTP server. Account username is rbstg. And the password is, let me get the password and paste it in here. Paste in the password, and in case, and you need to mention the remote directory name here. So you say /TF15. Okay, so we have this folder created, right? So I want the file to be placed in here, and you can mention the file name with which it needs to be uploaded. So you can mention a file name like a TF15 payment file. You can say it this way. And here, when it comes to payment file naming conventions, usually a static file name will do. But in some cases, if you want to append a timestamp or a request ID, you can do it. You can do it as well. So if you look for the documentation on the send file name, what can be used in the transmission configuration, you will notice that you can use a date like this, put an ampersand and use a date, or you can use a date and a time as well. And you can also use a request ID in case you want to capture the format payment instructions request ID which generated this file. Okay, so you have few options that you can use in the file naming conventions. But leave it as a TF15 payment file for now. And you also have an option to upload the encryption key. Okay, so in case you want this payment file to be encrypted and then placed in the SFTP server, you can upload the encryption key. You can ask client to share the encryption key, and you can select that encryption key here. Okay, so that way you are basically securing the contents of the text file because it's a text file, right? And if someone is able to get into this SFTP server, they will not be able to see the contents of the payments file because it's an encrypted one. And the only person who will be able to see the contents of it will be the person who has the decryption key. Okay, so let's test the connection to see if it's working fine or not. It will try to establish the connectivity with the SFTP server and gives you a confirmation message. It shouldn't take this long ideally. should see a confirmation message. I'm not sure why it's taking time. Let's save and close and then try to reopen it again. Right, so only PGP encryption is supported, and you will have to select the key here. If you select the key here, that is a way of letting the system know that encrypt this payment file with this key. You won't mention it anywhere. And this key, you will get a drop down here. So you need to upload the key to UCM and then use it here. Use the encryption key here or select it here. I'm not sure what's going on here. Let me try to open the instance again. So the connection to the server has failed. Okay, let's test it one more time. Okay, let's go to FSM and try to create a new one. Yeah, you get a confirmation now. So save and close. Test succeeded, and we can use this transmission configuration to make a payment. And there is one more setup that we need to do. We need to create a payment system. So go to manage payment systems and create a new one. And you can say a TF15 payment system PS. I'll just call it as PS. TF15 PS. And it's a processor basically. And here you need to enable this for disbursement EFT payments. So we are creating a payment system which will process them. And we can also enable electronic funds transfer. And here you need to select the format that you have created and the transmission protocol. You don't select the transmission configuration, but you select the protocol. So in the format, click on the plus icon and select TF15. So there is one with a TF15 that you created, right? TF15 pay format. Select that. And in the transmission protocol, select SFTP. Select SFTP as an option. And then you add an account. A sample account is required. Save and add accounts. And just add a dummy account. That's fine. FT or TF15. You call it as PSA. Payment system account. Done. And you need to create a payment process profile now to make the payment using all the options that we have set up. So in the payment process profile, you will select all the options that you have defined so far. So go to PPP and define a new payment process profile. Create a new one. And select the payment format, TF15. And you select the processing type as electronic. and the default pay document is TF15 that you select. And in here, you can restrict the payments by method or a bank account or a business unit if you want. So these, you can restrict where this payment process profile can be used with the help of these usage rules. Okay, but that's okay. We will leave it wide open. But go to the payment system. This is an important setup. So you need to select the payment system that you have configured just now. Select the payment system, which needs to be used to generate and transmit the file. And you tick this box. This is quite important. And this is what controls or what transmits the file automatically after it is formatted or after it is generated. So if you tick this box or only if you tick this box, the file will be automatically transmitted after it is generated in ERP Cloud, as in when you make the payment. And you see the payment system account that you have defined in PS, and you can see the profile created. And if you look at the transmission configuration, here you need to pick the one that you have defined. So we have defined TF15 transmission configuration, right? So you select that, and in this transmission configuration, we mentioned this SFTP server details, and we have asked, we have selected this folder and a file name as TF15 payment file. So all these details will be picked up from a transmission configuration. Save and close. You don't need to do anything. And the only step that is left out now is to make the payment using the PPP. To make the payment, you need to go back to the home page, pick up an invoice and make the payment. Go to payables. Payments and create a new one. And you can create a payment. Select the business unit. So I've given what I did is to help everyone. We created a sample invoice and we have left it with an outstanding amount on it. So you can probably use the same invoice. So you select construction BU and you select the supplier as ABS Engineering Products. There's an invoice with an outstanding amount just to save a few minutes of our time. And that's okay, ignore this error. And select the payment, the disbursement payment, disbursement bank account. You will see a Bank of America account, select that. And you will see that all these options will be derived from the bank account. Payment method is going to be electronic. PPP, you can select the TF15 one that you have created just now. Okay, you see the payment document created or defaulted there. That's okay, remit to bank account is fine. And here you can select and add the invoices now. So if any of these setups are not missing, so if you can't see the payment document, then you would have probably not missed one of the steps. So in case you are not able to progress further, go back to the previous step and see if you have selected the right options or not, because there is a tight linkage between one setup and the other. So here you can click on select and add an invoice that you want to pay. And I will pick up this FT13 EFT invoice. I'll pick it up. And there is an outstanding amount of 940 USD. I won't make the entire payment, but instead I'll just pay $10 or $15 so that you guys can also reuse the same invoice. No need to go through the invoice creation and all those steps. So I want to pay $10 and I'll click on save and close. You can pick multiple invoices as well if you want. You get a confirmation. And if you go to monitor process window, you go to the schedule process window. So you see that the format payment files job is getting triggered. It's format payment files, not instructions. And this job will generate a file. And after the file is generated, it succeeded. After the file is generated, since we have checked that option to automatically transmit the file, transmission job is triggered. And this will deposit the file in SFTP server. So that handshake happens automatically. So if you go to the SFTP location and if you do a refresh, you will be able to see the file that is generated. And you can see the same output in format payment files as well. So if you look at the format payment files, if you click on the attachments, one more, you will see a text file generated. And this text file is nothing but a payment file generated. And this payment file is generated in a format that we have uploaded. So the first one is a supplier bank account number or our bank account number. The second one is a beneficiary bank account number, it's missing. And the third one is the amount, how much amount it we paid, $10. And the fourth column is USD, currency is getting displayed. And the fifth one is a payment date, we are paying it today. So the today's date is printed in this format. And then you see the beneficiary bank name, transaction type code, we have hard coded it as 0001. So we've got those details. Concatenated description, we paid only one invoice, right? So we are concatenating the payee name, which is ABS Engineering Products supplier name, and the concatenated invoice number, which is coming from here. And in here, we are attaching, concatenating the invoice number with the description. And the invoice that I created, it didn't have any description, so that's why this is blank. Otherwise, you would have seen some description here if you have. So you have the invoice number. So this entire thing is a concatenated description field. And after that, you have the original amount, I believe. The payment reference. So if you remember when we saved the payment, we've got a reference, right? We have set up the starting number as 1000, right? So this is a payment reference that is generated. So in short, we have customized the disbursement payment file format. We've created a new template. We have seen the process of customizing it, how to customize it, upload it. And we have also carried out all the steps required to generate a payment file, in a format the client needs it. In fact, the client bank needs it. And we have deposited in SFTP server. That's how it works. Any questions, guys? Any questions in this component? Okay, I'll take it as no. And I'll take 5 more minutes of your time to just explain one concept which Ravi asked me to cover. That is the lookups concept. I hope you guys might have heard about the lookups and what they can be used for, right? So if you go to in EBS also we have the same concept, the lookups, flex fields, lookups, value sets, and the flex fields, right? You have the same concepts available in ERP Cloud as well. But in ERP Cloud, again, yes, you can create a lookup to store configurable values if you want. Like you define a lookup and you create and you store values in there, and you refer those values or you pull the values from that lookup in a BIP report or other components wherever you need them, right? So how do you create a lookup? To create a lookup, you have to get into the application. Go to the application. And you go to FSM. Go to the global search. And you can search for manage common lookups. So you can have application specific lookups as well and a common lookups available. So if you go to the lookup screen, you can define a new one. And the way you create it is you can search for the existing lookups or you can create a new one. And in the lookups in ERP Cloud, there is one important concept called config level. Okay, for every lookup, there will be a configuration level attached. And this will determine what you can perform on that lookup. And there are three possible configuration levels. There are three possible configuration levels in a lookup. Lookup can have a configuration level of system, extensible, or user. If the lookup configuration level is system, that means you won't be able to do anything in that lookup. You will be able to just query it, see what entries are there, but you won't be able to delete the existing ones or add a new entry. Extensible lookup. As you can make out from the name itself, there will be few seeded entries given by Oracle. You won't be able to delete them, or you won't be able to delete the lookup as such, but you will be able to add the new entries in there. You can extend it. And the third type is user, which means it's a lookup created by you or by Oracle, but they want user to have full control on that lookup. So if the configuration level is user, means you can do anything you want on that lookup. And what that anything is these options. So you can add a new type, you can delete it, you can insert new codes, you can update the start dates, you can delete the codes, update tags, etc. So for each of these configuration levels, I've given a sample lookup in the backends. So if you want to see, so say for example, if you query this lookup, the pay-based state. So these three are the seeded lookups given by Oracle. And this has a system configuration level of system, which means I can see two entries here, but the plus symbol and the into symbol are disabled, and I will not be able to change or disable or even indent them. Okay, so it's like you can see the lookup, but you won't be able to make any change if it's a system lookup. And if it's an extensible lookup like a disability reason, okay, I've taken examples from HCM, but you will find enough examples in financials as well. Okay, it's extensible, meaning you have three entries given by Oracle, which you cannot delete because you see that into symbol is not enabled, but you can add your own, and you can also delete the ones that you have added. Okay, which means you can extend the lookup. And you have the third type called a user extensible user lookup, which means you will have full control on it. User configuration level. You can do whatever change you want in here. You can delete the entries, add a new one in, edit the existing entries, disable them, edit them. You can do whatever you want. And even when you create a new lookup, it will get created with a user configuration level. So if you click on it, create a new lookup. Okay, so for example, if you want to create a TF15 countries lookup. Select any module, that's okay. You can select application core or application common, that's fine. And you can go ahead and save it. And after you save it, the plus symbol gets enabled. Lookup type must be in uppercase. So can't I convert it? Okay. So yeah, it has to be in uppercase, it seems. So TF15 countries. Let me change this as application common. Save it. And you can add in new entries here. So the way you add it is you click on the plus icon and you add the entries. Say for example, you add in a couple of entries, display sequence 1, and you can put in a start date as well, start date and end date. Say for example, you want this to be effective from 1951, no end date. You can add it that way. Meaning also you can select India, and you can add in another entry. You can call it as US, display sequence 2, and put in a start date. And select it as US. So this is how you create a lookup header and make an entries into the lookup. Okay, save and close. And I was told to answer a specific interview question. I'm not sure if one of you has asked Ravi this question, that how to cover or how to pull the values from a lookup and display it in a DFF segment. Okay, so when you normally, so is flex fields covered for you guys? Can one of you please confirm the flex fields concept?
Yes.
Okay, flex fields concept is covered, right? So in the flex fields, what you normally do? So Ravi would have shown you how to enable country and city on a job or a location page, right?
Yes.
So what do you normally do? You go to descriptive flex fields.
So we go there and we define the global context if needed, or define the context. In this context, you just add an attributes where you can select the value sets.
Correct.
So in that value sets, I think you can refer this lookup.
That's where the problem is. So you won't be able to refer the value set lookup directly in the flex field segment. Say for example, if you go to the context. So if I create a new one, I save it and try to add a segment. And you select the data type as character maybe. And once you do that, what do you see in here? You see that you only have an option to tag a value set to a flex field segment. And that is a usual behavior, and that's how 99 out of 100 times you configure flex fields in flex fields in real time as well. But I was told by Ravi that people started asking this in the interview, especially that how to pull values from a lookup and display it in a flex field segment. So the problem with most interviewers is, so they try to ask something that they have done in a unique manner. And that doesn't mean it's used widely across. Okay, one of the interviewer might have come across a requirement, or one or two of them, and they might have seen a use case wherein they had to pull the values from a lookup and display it in a flex field segment, probably a seeded lookup. That doesn't mean it's a widely used practice, but yes, if required, you can do that. How do you do that? You see that there is only an option to select a value set here. But we have a lookup created, but we can't select that lookup here. What do you do in that case? So did Ravi cover how to create value sets as well? He would have created different value sets, right?
Yes.
And one of the value set type is table dependent value set, right? So you can create a table dependent value set and you can edit it here. So if I go back, if I open the instance in a different session, I think I've not copied down what is the lookup name that I have given. Use TF15 underscore countries if I'm not wrong.
Yes, that is true. 15 countries.
Yeah. So what you do is you go to the setup and maintenance and you define a table dependent value set. Go to the search option. create a new one. EF15 countries from lookup value set, and you select the module. Select the module as any module is fine here. Then select it as application common. And here you create it as a table dependent value set and select the character, and you can select the what table stores the information. Lookup values is a table that stores the information. So if you query if you go to the reports and analytics work area, you can query the lookup table. So if you write a dummy data model here, select FSCM and select start from FND lookup values is the table that stores the information, and you can select and you can apply a filter wherein you say lookup type is equal to TF15 underscore countries, right? So this is what we created, and you click OK. And if you want to display the meaning and pull that and display it in the country's value set, so I want to display the lookup code or a meaning, you can pull whatever you want, and you can put in a filter, put in a language filter as well. It's currently displaying 2 rows per country, and you can say language equal to US. And instead of pulling all the values, you can only pull the lookup code or a meaning and display it in a flex field segment. So what do you do in the values? You query this table FND lookup values, and what column do you want to display? I want to display the lookup code. You can pick up meaning as well if you want. And the ID, other columns, you can leave it as blank. And in the where clause, what do? You will have to plug in the conditions that you have written. I think we lost the query. That's okay. We can. I think it's here, right? So yeah, we can add in these join conditions and add it in the where clause. We are restricting, go to the lookup table, pull the values for TF15 countries lookup type, and the language is United States. And you can also select this option in the order by clause, order the results by lookup type, and click on save. Copy it and do a save and close. And I want to use this in the flex field segment configuration now. So I go in there. So okay, go to the descriptive flex field, and we were configuring the country segment here, right? So here I'll select the table dependent value set that I've created just now. And that table dependent value set is looking at, is picking up the values from a lookup. Yeah, you can leave the other options as is. You can probably say set a display size of 10, and you can save and close. And I've created this TF15 context. So I'll save and close. Save and close again. Save and close again. And we will deploy the flex field. And after once this is done, we can open up a new session, go to the job screen, and we should be able to see the new context TF15 enabled in there. And if you select that, the country should appear. And only 2 countries you should be able to see. Whatever you have defined in the lookup, you should be able to see in there. Okay, so it's deployed now. So you can sign out from this session and sign in again. And you can go to the job screen. Click on setup and maintenance. You go to the global search and you can search for the manage job. So you try to create a new job. And if you scroll down, you should be able to see the context in there and pick up the TF15 one. You should see the country getting enabled. And if you look at the drop down, you should see 2 values in there. And if you go to the lookup and add in one more value in there, so if you go to lookup from here, and add in one more value, that should get reflected in there. If you add in say UK, save and close. And if you click on the drop down again, you should see 3 countries. The problem is it's not getting reflected immediately. And select. I think the values were populated and it's not getting refreshed again. So if you create a TF15 job, select the context. And you can see 3 values in there. Okay, so this is how you pull the values from a lookup and attach it to a flex. You create a value set, table dependent value set, to pull the values from a lookup, and you attach the table dependent values to the flex field segment. Okay, any questions guys? Any questions on this?
Yeah, one question to sir. Can we build a table value set from multiple tables?
You can add as many tables as you want in there. No restriction. You can add multiple tables, but if you add multiple tables in the where clause, you need to select the appropriate join conditions.
Okay. And how about the modules? I mean, while creating this lookup, you are referring to selecting one common module, right?
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't
really
matter what you pick up there. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can select application common. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So are you the one who asked Ravi about this particular topic, or someone else?
No. I'm not the one actually.
Not you. Okay. Now, Ravi told that a few students asked about this concept, and so he asked me to give a demo today. Okay. That's fine, guys. So we're done with the technical training with today's session. Please do practice it.
One
Yes.
question on that payment disbursement file. While doing the setup, we have enabled the checkbox for automatic file transfer. If let's assume that
Correct.
automatic file transfer is not enabled, then how is it done manually?
You will have to run it manually. Done manually, you will have to run that job transmit payment file for passing in the reference, and that will pick up the file and transmit it.
So we have to provide the source from where the file should be picked, right?
I think you can give it. You can give the payment file reference, and it will. So the way it works is all the ESS jobs, wherever you see the log and output files, right? So where do you think those files are coming from? So if you run any job, you will for the payment format payment files job, we have seen the log and output files generated, right? So where are they? They must have been stored somewhere. They are usually stored in UCM. With every ERP instance, there will be a UCM attached, right? And that UCM, the files will be stored. So when you give a file reference, payment file reference, and run the transmit file, it picks up that file that was generated earlier and it transmits it. But we usually don't have a scenario where you don't automatically transmit. We usually transmit it. But in case the transmission fails, the question that you ask comes into picture, wherein you can rerun the file again. Or you can, in the worst case scenario, you can download the file from here and put it in SFTP. That's a worst case scenario in case you don't have time to debug the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for your time. Please do practice and all the best.